In class, this is Dr. Peter Terzop waking up early on a Saturday morning with my coffee and wanted to do this video. Had a number of emails and from students asking questions about grading. And I've done videos on this before, but when doing the videos, you get more of a conversational type effect. So when someone talks about something, put it in context of what they're saying. Here's an example, one that was brought up. If, let's say, for example, you have an academic issue, or say you're writing something and you say, Smith in 2014 related the following things, and maybe you use it word for word, or maybe you forget to put Smith in there, and so it's just a block of writing, and you say, well, I referenced something, so that means I'm good to go. Well, we know you have to cite at the point of use and develop, meaning you cite what you use from someone else and show why is that important, develop that analysis. And at the end you reference so the professor can actually look it up. So the citation shows the professor or the reader this comes from somewhere else. It also shows them, did you quote it word for word, or did you sit there and put it in your own words, which is really stronger writing. Did you take the ideas of others and put it in your words and cite in proper APA? Then the reference allows the professor to read it. So sometimes you'll hear me say, if you don't cite something correctly or you write it incorrectly, especially when you're using sources, if I don't see the citation, either you forgot to cite, you just didn't use it. You said you did. At the bottom it says you did. The reference says you used it, but you didn't. Or you plagiarized. So those are three options professors see. Now, if the professor thinks you plagiarize, it's pretty clear pretty quick. Typically, it's a very low grade, if not a 0, and it's turned over to the school for academic review. If it's something in the sense that you simply didn't use it, most professors will make it an APA issue, but also a development issue, meaning you didn't cite it correctly, but you didn't use it. So it's as if you didn't use a source. And so that's a development or academic quality issue. If you just forgot to cite it, like I can see that you did it, and I don't believe you plagiarized, then I can say, well, they just simply made an academic mistake, meaning like a APA mistake. So most professors, in my opinion, will sit there and look at things from that perspective that we're all learning, we make mistakes, and we might have coachable moments and teachable moments and all these things that we like to talk about. Having said that, there are times when people have the whole paper copied or whole paragraphs copied, or it just looks like plagiarism. So that's when it gets more serious. But you'll know that when it gets serious. Not only will the professor say something, but there'll be an academic person saying something as well. So it goes to the next part of this, is when you get feedback, take it for what it is, okay? Maybe I have one student that said, well, I've never had this problem. I've never been told this, and I've been going to school for years. Sometimes this happens, okay? It happens that you might be going to school. Doesn't matter what school you go to. It could be the best schools or the worst schools. It doesn't matter. Sometimes you just hit a lucky seam. You might be writing papers and the professor has hundreds and hundreds of students, or a grad assistant has to grade all these papers, and they just don't catch these things. Or maybe someone doesn't care about turn it in, or there's a lot of things that happen. Or maybe you do it just enough where it's wrong, but no one ever says anything. So we see this all the time. This is nothing abnormal to any school. It's very normal, and it's something that professors only have so much time to do it. But when they do catch it, it becomes quite the issue. So that's why I think most professors like to take that time and say, hey, just letting you know there's a problem here and we're trying to resolve it. So the best advice I can give is help resolve it. In other words, it's okay to say, hey, I've never had this problem, thank you very much, what can I do to resolve it? Because the minute you push and say it's you or you're wrong, then the professor is going to break out that APA manual and say, no, you're wrong, and let me take the Turnitin report and show you why you're wrong. And now it's not coachable. Now we're just going to turn it over for academics. So what we want to do here, instead of having that confrontation and people fighting to struggle to see who wins, because the professor typically wins. It's about a 95% success rate. What you want to do, and I say this to professors as well, is you want to have a relationship where you say, look, okay, even in the worst case scenario, say the student cheats. I mean, straight up cheats. Course hero, pays for the paper, cheats. It doesn't mean that we can't have a form of respect. I call it mutual respect. To say, hey, look, did you do this or not? And if the student owns it or not, you just say, look, this is what happened. Something happened. It was wrong, and it's very wrong. So let's just figure out a few things. One, what does the policy say we have to do? Some schools are very big on, hey, you use Course Hero, that's a 0 in academic write-up, and they hammer it pretty good, okay? Other schools are more, yeah, it's a problem, but let's just try to, let's give it the write-up. But what I like is the other side of it. What can we do to fix it, okay? Because we all make mistakes, and I'm willing to say that. You know, we all make mistakes. But my big thing is, how do we solve it? How do we resolve that mistake? How do we sit there and say, look, here's the problem, so let's fix it? Now, if a student's open to that, most professors, again, I believe, will work towards a solution and say, okay, that's a 0, let's just move past that. So what can we do moving forward? And we have to look forward, okay, solutions. Now, there will be the student that sometimes will throw down and say, no, I know I cheated, but I should be able to do it again. Well, that's not how life works, okay? Professor wants to do it. Some schools allow them to do it, and that's fine. I personally don't like doing it because there's no lesson learned. But having said that, there are times when people make mistakes, like maybe they just cite something improperly and they just get a lower grade. That's a different issue, okay? But when people, you know, again, we're working on the worst case scenario, we still can have respect through the process, and we can still work together to try to resolve issues. So the whole grading process, let's just be honest, it's subjective. Even if we have objective things, okay, we have to put our opinions to, like, subjective opinions, meaning what's my opinion, how do I perceive that, and put it into the subjective rubric, and that gives us what we call intersubjectivity, meaning it's not fully objective, but it's not fully subjective, which is a big improvement over the old days when I would get a paperback and it would say A, and I'm like, well, why did I get an A? No, I'm just joking. I didn't always get A's. I know some people believe that, but I didn't always get A's. But whatever the grade was, they would sit there and say, there's your grade. And I'd look at the paper and there's nothing on it. Or maybe a couple scratch marks or check marks. What does that mean? You know, how do I get better? So I believe professors over the years have done a lot to improve in this area. So again, if you have legitimate questions, push back nicely and say, hey, I got some questions here. This is what I should, you know, I need to know a little bit more if that's possible, but say it in a nice way. The minute you accuse, attack, or get negative or threaten, the professor actually, can actually go back and look at all of your assignments. So if you have this problem in one, there's probably a good chance you have it in all of them. And I've seen it where students actually go from an A to an F because they pushed. So the professor reviewed everything and found plagiarism or bad, you know, use of sources throughout all the work. So always kind of put that in perspective. Just because you might have got lucky in a few classes, or maybe the professors didn't care, don't attack the one that does, okay? Learn from them, get the most out of them, and realize this is life in general. You're going to have bosses that you don't like. You're going to have bosses that you love. But at the end of the day, you're probably going to have a boss. Or you're going to be a boss, and people are going to love you or hate you too, okay? So always kind of put that in perspective. But anyways, a little bit longer video, but I think it's an appropriate one. And if there's anything that I can do, please drop me a line, and best of luck.